Welcome to the Peaceful Worldschooling podcast, featuring your host, Angela Harders. We're committed to cultivating a peaceful world beginning right in our own hearts and homes. Together, we believe that the world is our biggest and best classroom, and the people and places in it are our greatest teachers. So I invite you to join me on the adventure of a lifetime, beginning with a conversation that can change the world. Hello, and welcome to the Peaceful Worldschooling podcast, where we are committed to cultivating a peaceful world beginning right in our own hearts and homes. My name is Angela Harders. I am a special education teacher, the author of Gospel-Based Parenting and the Crunchy Kids series, and a proud worldschooling mother to two amazing children, Sophia, who's 7, and Benjamin, who is 3. Today on the Peaceful Worldschooling podcast, I have the privilege and honor of introducing you to Leslie Urbas. Thank you so much for joining us today as we have a conversation that can change the world. Thank you for being with us, Leslie. I'm so glad that you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So to get us started, can you share a little bit about you, your family, and your story?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Leslie. I'm a registered dietitian and a personal trainer. I have watched my whole adult life. But with that being said, I've had quite a few different jobs in my adult life. I've been active duty military myself. And then I just worked for the Naval Hospital as a civilian, which led me to kind of where I'm at today. I met my husband, who is actually military, online, like on Match. I know that sounds funny, but we worked like less than a block away from each other. Ridiculous, right? Like we meet each other online. I know, right? But we only work a block away from each other. So we actually figured that out on like our second date, that we worked like a block away from each other, which was kind of funny. But anyway, so we got married. Shortly after that, we got pregnant with our first daughter, Lily, and she was born in September of 2000 we got pregnant in September. She was born in July of 2018. And shortly after I had her, I decided that I needed to not be working as much as I was. It was one of those, like, I love what I do, but the distance was so far. It was such a long commute that we had decided that I would, try this whole work from home thing, got a different job. And then actually went business myself, kind of like a typical military. I don't want to say typical military, but a lot of military moms will do something like that where, because the dad's gone so long, they just want more time with the kiddos. We got pregnant with my son shortly after I started my business for myself, and then COVID hit, and then we had our son in COVID.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know that that's how it was, because COVID came in March, April timeframe.
Yeah.
Sorry, always crazy. And then he was born in July of 2020. So yeah, that was pretty interesting in and of itself. Come down. And then, we've been a military family the entire time. I would say since we got married in September of 2017, probably 300 days a year he's not here.
Gosh.
Yeah, so it's a pretty crazy life. During COVID, they were here a little bit more because there was less events and things going on. But so it's been a pretty crazy whirlwind of 3 years. My daughter is 3 now, and my son is 1. He's crazy.
Wow. That is incredible. Well, first of all, thank you and your husband both for serving our country. That really means a lot to me and to so many of my listeners as well that truly value, what you do and how you serve our country. So thank you for that. I cannot even imagine what that must be like to be married, but then to be separated for so much of the year. 300 days out of the year, that is like way over the majority of the year. Is he like traveling in other countries or just in different places around the US? What does that look like for him?
Yeah, of course. So we actually have never moved from Jacksonville. This is where I met him, Jacksonville. Florida. We've never moved. Luckily, we will have to, but we haven't had to yet. He's gotten lucky with the positions that he's gotten. He's transitioned and had different jobs here in Florida, but we've never had to move bases. So that was really helpful. But basically what it is that once we got married, he had to go up to school in Rhode Island, which was around 6 months. And then he came home for a couple of months. And then he had to go to school in Virginia. And then he came home for a couple of months. And then the ship he was going to was still being built. So it was in Mississippi. So he was in Mississippi for about 6 or 7 months. Then he came home for a couple of months. And then he's been on this ship, but it's kind of like here, gone, here, gone, here, gone. And the events are kind of all over the place. So it just depends. He of other countries or traveled around basically, the Eastern, like I hate to say Eastern Ocean because it's not the Atlantic Ocean, somewhere in there has been where he is, but on the East Coast somewhere, gone all over. Where exactly? I don't even know all the time. So I couldn't tell you where he goes, but.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's good that even though he's having to move around a lot, that you and your family are kind of able to, I guess, establish roots where you are for now. I'm sure that probably helps to have some stability, at least for you and your children. What would you say is the biggest challenge that you face as a military family, having your husband that's gone so long?
I would have to say mom guilt or mom perfection would be the biggest thing because, and maybe other, families are out there kind of thinking this as well. But if you think about it, you have somebody that helps you with the fire alarm when it goes off. And you have somebody that takes on some of the things that happen on a day-to-day basis, right? 99% of the time, I'm the one that does it all, right? So it's like I have to sometimes let a baby scream in the background while I do an activity, right? This is a big thing, and I don't know how many other moms have this, but my son, I swear, no matter what, if he goes to daycare during the day, when he comes home, it's like, I will not stop screaming until you give me my dinner. It is intense. And if you're trying to cook dinner, like you're like, oh my gosh, you're screaming and I'm trying to cut up potatoes. And it's like, if I had one other person here to just like do something, or I could hold you, and, you plan ahead and you do all those things, but it doesn't always work that way. So I would probably say that, thinking about all the daily times that you can look over at your husband and be like, could you do X, Y, or Z? And then the next toughest part is when he is here, it's like, I don't think to ask, but then I get frustrated as he's just sitting there because I don't think to ask because I always have to do it. So sometimes it's learning the difference of like, okay, I have all this mom guilt. I feel super ridiculous. Like, am I doing it right? Why do I not have as much patience as it seems other moms do? Things like that. I would say a combination of all that is really what the biggest struggle is when they're here and gone. And by the time you learn the routine with them back, it's like they're gone again. So next time it'll be different. As like kids transition so much when they're this little, you're gone for a month and your kid's walking or getting into things and like eating cat food or whatever it is. So
yeah, that is definitely true. I think mom guilt, I feel like mom guilt is kind of universal. I feel like all moms to some degree experience that sort of guilt, like, oh gosh, I'm not doing as well as I would like to, or I'm not as patient as I want to be. And I know I definitely struggle with that too. I'm actually a single mom, so I can relate in that sense. But I'm blessed that I'm able to, my best friend actually lives with me and my children. And so she helps a lot, just in, helping alleviate some of that burden of feeling like I don't have to do everything all by myself. Like it really does make a difference when there's someone else that's there, supporting you. But yeah, I can imagine like you kind of have this dynamic where like the majority of the time it is just you. And then on those times that your husband's home, as you mentioned, it's like you both kind of have to figure out how to parent together when he's there, because he's not normally the one that's kind of filling that role, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you feel like he also experiences guilt, or do you think that mom guilt is just kind of exclusively something that moms deal with?
I think that there's times that he feels bad that he's gone or that he can't help, or that sometimes I get more like resistance from people or things along that nature. I think he does have that. Um, I feel like, and this is just, I don't want to generalize here. I think moms take it on more only because like from the moment we get pregnant, it's a different world for us, right? Like, so for the 10 months that we carry the baby, it's basically like, you change your life again. You're under 21. You have to watch what you eat. You have to watch what you do. You can't wear certain things. It's like that has retinol in it. Got to take it off the list or whatever it is, right? The
Yeah.
list of all the things you shouldn't do you're pregnant is like massive. Whereas their life remains the same during those 10 months. It's not like their life changes that drastically. So I feel like sometimes we internalize it more because we have that like as soon as they're in us. So we have like 10 months more prep. And
Yeah.
then, in the first part, if you're a breastfeeding mom like I am, it's so intense. Like, sure, they can help change a diaper, but they can't use a bottle or they can't do anything like that. You're still the one that's awake for longer. Like,
Yeah.
okay, they may get up, change the diaper, hand you the baby, do the feed. By the time you would be like, you want to, maybe you hear snoring next to you, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that the guilt is there for him as well, but I feel like I think moms just internalize it a little bit more.
I definitely agree. I think that, it's I feel like it's something that is definitely unique to what moms experience in the fact that it does seem to be something that is so universal that moms feel this intense pressure to be this incredible super mom, and even just to I feel like sometimes even to just be human is like you're not allowed to be human, as a mom. Like we're just expected to sacrifice so much for our children and not, I feel like a lot of times we feel guilty just doing things to like care for ourselves, and taking time to do things for ourselves. And I'm wondering, what are some things that you like to do to be able to take care of yourself so that you can take care of your children?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that's a great, thought process there. And I think the reason why moms have that is because it's like that money should go to my kids. I don't even know if it's time. I think it's money. I think that's always what stops us, right? It's like, oh, but if I get a pet, that's $40. And like, how many shirts could I buy my kid for $40, right? Or, they want to do cheerleading or wrestling if you have older kids or whatever it may be. And it's like, so I will sacrifice myself. But things that I do for myself, I mean, I love to get pedicure. I get them once a month. I get a massage once a month, and I don't really feel bad for things at all. I do get my eyelashes done because I think do. Other things I like to do for myself is, I do have my kids in daycare during the day. As a business owner, it really allows me to be in my business during those times, but it also allows me to take some of the time for myself, like go to the doctor's appointment without the kids screaming there at your feet, actually take care of yourself. And I find that the more that I take care of myself, the better I am in my business and the better I am for my kids, and I think that that's something that moms really don't think. Like we've watched our moms and things sacrifice, and that's one disconnect that I don't want my daughter to like. I don't want her to feel like she has to get rid of herself to
Mm,
have kids or to do these things. Like I want her to know, like you should be able to have it all, right?
yeah.
Nothing is unworthy of you. If it's unworthy of God, it's unworthy of you, right? And
Mm,
I don't think that in any way, shape, or form, God's up there like, oh, you should not be taking care of yourself, right? He still views you in your own image, spirit, universe, whatever you want to say there. Doesn't just have to be God, but that's my thought process. Like I want her to know that like you are deserving of these, and the only way to show her is to show her that I do. I don't want her to be selfless. I want her to know that she's important, and same with my son. I want him to have those things as well. But those are kind of like the self-care things I do, and we talk about things too. Sometimes I'll be like. She always asks me what we're doing in the beginning of the morning. Like, what are we doing today, mom? And sometimes when I say go to school, she's I don't want to go to school. I'm like, it's 3, right? At 3 years old, she's already telling me this. She's really not going to want to go when it's got to be too much learning, right? Well, anyways, I was like, it's okay because mommy has to do X, Y, or Z. Well, why do you have to do that? Well, because mommy has to take care of herself too, you know? And that's just one of the things that I think is important. Every day I work out at 5 a.m. in the morning, and 99% of the time she joins me at the end. And this past weekend was the first weekend I've ever left them. I've not spent one night away from my kids up until this past weekend. My husband persuaded me to go on a weekend, and my sister-in-law watched them, and she said that at 5 or at like 6:30 when Lily would wake up, she'd go into the room and be like, Aunt Steph, it's time to work out. And she's like, oh, no, 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 that's your mom, that's not me, right? So it's just funny. She knows our routine. She knows that I do that, and she knows why I do these things. So I think it's just important, like for me to take the time for myself, but also to show my children, even though I have them, I'm still put as a priority.
Mm, that is so important. And I think you're absolutely right. Like, being able to model for our children the kind of life that we want for them and the kind of values that we want to pass on to them is like really important. And that's so funny that your daughter like already knows your own personal routine of like getting up early and exercising and working out. I know for a lot of moms, I feel like it's easy to kind of put that on the back burner. Do you have any tips as someone who is a personal trainer and a mom that is committed to like working out and your own physical health? What are some tips that you could share to a mom that just feels overwhelmed and super busy with everything that life has for her? How can she continue to, take care of her physical body in the middle of trying to take care of everything else in life?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing would be the calendar is your friend. It is not something that's against you. So a lot of people like that. I want to live spontaneous. I get it. I do. But when your kids are little, and like, I mean, I joked with Lily yesterday because she asked me for chocolate milk like 3 times in an hour. I was like, I cannot wait till the day you can pour your own chocolate milk, right? Seems so simple. But it's like, I really can't wait. Like, it'll save me some time, right? So the thought process to me is I like to calendar things. Like, I purposely calendar, like, this is my workout time. It isn't perfect, meaning there's been plenty of times that my son's woken up in between, like, really early on to breastfeed. And it would be like, okay, I'm breastfeeding him completely sweaty and I don't care, right? Like, doesn't matter. He's going to be fine. Put him back to sleep. Your daughter wakes up and needs to pee while you're working out or something. As soon as that happens, we view it as like a sign that we're supposed to be done, or that, like it's not our time anymore, or things like that. It has nothing to do with that. If you start to put yourself into the routine and you come up with ways to incorporate that and calendar it, it's like to yourself. Like when you first started dating somebody, or when you first had your kid or anything like that, you don't break those dates, right? If you tell your kid we're going to go out and we're going to go to the zoo today, if it's not raining, obviously, like if you then say later, oh, I just don't feel like it, your kid's going to be really upset, right? You're going to go even if you don't feel like it. But to yourself, you make these promises that you'll do things and you don't follow through. So first thing is calendar is your best friend. And then the second thing is that if you say you're going to do something, you have to follow through. The moment that you tell yourself you don't have to follow through, you're basically showing yourself and the universe and your kids like, hey, I don't have to do this. Like, this is just what I'm thinking I want to do, right? And how do we really get a result that way? Right. So it's just like the kid that has to, learn how to do 2 + 2 is 4, right? If they keep saying, I don't get it, and they get so frustrated, you try to figure out multiple ways for them to understand 2 + 2 is 4, right? Let's use candy. Okay. I bet you he can figure out 1, 2, 3, 4 put together, right? If we count that way, because it becomes a fun activity for them. We think of all the ways that we can do things for our kids, but for us, it's like one way or the highway, or like super restrictive. And I think the other thing that's really important for like ways to do it is come up with a time that's not dependent on if your kids are awake or asleep. Who's they can't do it with you? He says they can't enjoy it with you. I mean, Lily will do runs with in the morning. She'll do some sort of like mock of whatever working out. Like, she's not perfect. I'm not going to show her form or anything. She's 3. Likes to participate, right? Showing her that and letting her know that that's important, I think is also important for any other person that's out there. Like, how do I put it in my day?
That's really an interesting way to look at it, because I know, at least for myself, I sometimes I feel that thought of like I have to do certain things when my children are sleeping. But you're right, like I can just invite them into the work that I'm doing, and not have to like wait for them to be asleep in order to, to do different things or whatever, but have them be a part of that. That's a wonderful, wonderful idea. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
So I know that, that is definitely some good strategies that we can use for taking care of like our physical health. Are there strategies that you can also recommend to maybe help take care of like our mental health or emotional health or relational health, especially, if you're a single mom or a military mom that maybe you don't have someone that's there helping you with these things?
Yeah, of course. So I mean, emotional help, I always think, you can go to counseling for sure. I mean, you can always have that. And now counseling can be in your own room, just like you and I are talking here. Like a counselor can, come to you. And that would obviously be something you probably want to do before or after your kids are asleep or something. That part I get. We haven't never done a counseling session with, like somebody else, like with our kids present. But that could be something, doing some sort of counseling. Or the best ways that I find that I emotionally improve myself is through just journaling. I know it sounds like kind of juvenile, like, oh, I kept a diary when I was like 10. Okay, I get it, but I'm not telling you to write down, oh, I think that Charlie's adorable, or I can't wait to go out on a date later with my husband. What I'm saying is like, go into your own mind and allow it to just keep going. I did this activity with a coach of mine about maybe 3 weeks ago. And what he had us do was literally write for 15 minutes straight. You could not remove the pen from the paper, obviously, except for to turn the page, right? And if you couldn't, whatever you were thinking, you wrote down on the piece of paper. And if you couldn't think of anything, you drew a straight line across. Okay. As you drew that straight line across, eventually your thoughts would come back, right? In that 15-minute process, I went through like the anger I was having at the moment, or the frustration or stress or guilt or shame. And then all of a sudden at the end, I had like a clear picture of exactly what I needed to do. And like for 15, like in a 15-minute period, I was like, okay, I have my next move for my business, for myself, for my family. Like it's really crazy when you can allow yourself to do that. I would say that. And then my other ways for emotional help are podcasts, right? But podcasts that help you improve yourself, that take you to the next level, that relieves something, not a podcast that's like, I mean, it's like it's personal to you, but like a ghost podcast or one that scares you. That's more like for entertainment. I mean, like something that's going to make you grow or push yourself. I find that those can be really super helpful. That the entertainment isn't needed in our life, but that may not help you to grow in the way that you're trying to. It may just allow you to, and you may need that at times, may allow you to escape your thoughts, right? And that's okay. And then for, I'd say like relationship health and stuff like that, things that I do with clients and people that I work with is really like communicate and decide and go forward. So my husband and I, right, because we're not always together, one of started to do is have a meeting once a week that we discuss what has to happen during the week. So that way we're clear. It's kind of like a family meeting. We include our kids because that was encouraged for us to include our kids. And Lily's addition is just kind of funny. But the other thing with that is, and that I think has been the most helpful for emotional and relational, if you have somebody that can help you, is taking time for yourself once a month, twice a month, where the other person in the relationship, whether it's a friend, a family member, your husband, your wife, whatever, where they watch the kids while you go do you, right? Like you take time for yourself in those instances. Just like 3 hours, whatever you do. You want to go to Target by yourself? Do you want to go on a beach? Do you want to go climb a mountain? Do you want to sit in the car and sleep? Do you want to go to a friend's house and just crash on the couch? Do you want to go to your parents' house and just crash on the couch? Like what is it that you want to do for yourself in the 3 hours or 2 hours or whatever it is that you get? Because that is really helpful of like resetting and reclarifying.
Those are some amazing tips that you shared. Thank you so much for sharing all those different ways that we can help take care of ourselves. And I love the idea of, the writing. That's something that I used to practice when I was in school. We actually call that a brain dump, where you do exactly what you just said. You set aside, 15 minutes. And even for some people, a lot of times just starting with 5 minutes is challenging. It's hard to develop that habit of like writing and getting it all out. But setting aside that time to just write and get all your feelings and thoughts on paper is so important. It's a great way to, kind of push through like the chaos sometimes that we first experience, or like that overwhelm that we have in our minds, and allowing that to just be on paper. You can get it out, and then you can really like have that focus of what you're going to do. And then you also mentioned podcasting, being able to listen to podcasts that help you grow. Do you have any specific podcasts that you recommend that have been helpful for you in growing or being the kind of person that you want to be?
Yeah, so the one that always comes to mind is The Successful Mind by David Nagel. I think everything he said there really helped me. I would also say, I'm going to forget it too. I'm going to look it up here because I don't butcher what the name of it is.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, I like Rachel Hollis's podcast. I'm not going to say I don't like that one. That's one of the ones from a good long time ago. The Brendan Show by Brendan Burchard, I've really liked.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one that I've listened to recently is called Mom's Freedom Maker. She's really good at, and she talks a lot from a business perspective. So obviously, like as a business wife, business woman, business, person, I do a lot of those things. I truly believe that while the Successful Mind attracts you towards a business mindset, the things that are there, it increases your level of thinking. It gets you out of thinking the way you did before. So tying into this military perspective here, I worked at the Naval Hospital as a dietitian before, saw lots of military wives, and I can't tell you how many would come to me for weight loss and fitness and start crying. Like, do you know how hard it is that he's gone? Like, I can't do this without him here. There's so much to do. And my next thing that I would always say is, we married a military spouse. We knew that they weren't a typical 9-to-5 job and they could be there every day. So what we need to figure out are ways for you to get some peace for yourself when you don't have that person there with you. I believe earbuds were a great invention because while you're playing with your kids on, a 1 to 3 year old level, and you have an earbud, like you can be up leveling your brain while you're working with them, And one of the things that I, had to explain to them is that, we have a picture in our mind of what we thought our relationship would look like from our parents, right? So our parents' relationship is what we assumed we would get in this relationship. So if we could get out of that, like, well, he's supposed to do X, Y, and Z because my dad did X, Y, and Z. That's just what is supposed to happen. If we could take our thinking to a higher level, we would be able to bring ourselves into more of awareness of like, it doesn't have to look the same. It can be a different picture. And that's very much so like for anything that you do, like who says you have to meal plan everything? Who says you have to have a vegetable at every meal? Who says you have to have, a fruit at every meal or whatever it is? Who says the ice cream has to come after dinner? Like allowing yourself that freedom along the way with everything sometimes help you to then, not be so like uptight or worried or sad or things like that. So I think that his podcast can be, interpreted in multiple ways. Not like if you listen, you're like, well, I don't run a business. This doesn't pertain to me. If you bring yourself to that thinking, and the Mom's Freedom Maker does something similar. Even if you don't have a business, like, would you really decrease to de-stress yourself a little, like what could you do grocery order instead of going to the grocery store? Could you go to the grocery store 1 time a week instead of 4 times a week, and I think things like that are helpful, especially for anybody that's kind of like busy or feeling like overly stressed on anything.
Yeah, that's so true. And the last point that you mentioned also was about you mentioned being able to find other people that can help you to kind of have that time for yourself and building, I guess, like this community or this tribe of people that can support you. And I can definitely say for me as a single mom, that has been so important. I cannot imagine if I was doing this literally like alone without anyone around to be able to support me in this journey as a single mom. Um, and so being able to have supportive family and friends and things like that has been such a blessing for me. But it really, it requires work, like you really have to be intentional and to be able to be honest and be willing to ask people like, hey, I need help. Like I need a 1 hour break, like please help me, watch the kids for a second so I can like take a break and have some time that I can kind of come back, to myself or spend some time doing something that I enjoy for a minute so that I can be a better mom to my kids, that I'm not feeling so stressed or overwhelmed with whatever. And so I'm wondering, how can people, obviously I'm not a military mom or military family. How can people best support either single moms or military families like you? What are some strategies that we can do to better help support military families?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, I guess my thought process would be is, you know, less judgment is the best way to support somebody.
Well,
Um,
hold on one second. Sorry, my Wi-Fi kind of like cut out for a second there. Could you repeat that one more time?
yeah, that's okay. Um, Less judgment is what I
Uh,
said. So I think that that's for everybody, not just a single mom or a military person. But, I think the whole reason why we're all overexhausted and we're all running rampant and not taking care of ourselves is because we're afraid of that person that's judging us on the other end. You
Yeah.
let your kid eat ice cream before dinner. What are you thinking? Like, you can hear somebody say that in your head, or like
Yeah.
when you are the mom that, loses her cool. Like there is every once in a while when I'm like, oh my God, I can't take the I love death, baby, but why is there so much crying, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh my gosh, and you have that moment. My daughter will repeat it sometimes when he cries too much. She's like, Larry, I can't take the cry. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to watch what I say, because they repeat every little thing you do.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with the way that you do it, right? There's nothing wrong with the way that you do it as long as you accept it. What's killing us, what's killing a military mom or a single mom or any type of mom is really that we are afraid of what that other person is judging us for.
Mm,
But accept it, right? Accept it. Like I accept I'm not perfect. I accept my patients every once in a while. I accept that I get frustrated when he does nothing but scream for 30 minutes straight solely because he wants dinner, even though he's got like 20 snacks before he's eating dinner just to try to be happy. It's like, okay, I've given you candy and all things, you should be satisfied, but you're not, right? I think that that's the best way, like to, and because we don't know what the other person is thinking judgment wise, what I mean is like out loud what we say, how we communicate, to each other, and like more accepting of each other and seeing that like every way you go is beautiful, right? Whether you're a single mom or you're a mom that has a husband that's always there, or you're a military mom, or whatever it may be, with your kids running around, no one is out there doing it perfect. And
yeah.
if they are, they're only doing it perfect for them. It can't be perfect for you at the same time. That's why we're all different. So I'd really say that that's probably the best thing is, maybe keeping, if it is a judgment, keep it to yourself. Don't share it with them and be like, oh, I wouldn't have done that if I were you, you
Yeah.
know? So that would be what I would say.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And it's funny because I say something like that very similar often to other moms. I always share with them that same idea that something is only a problem if you say so, and which is so true because I mean, I know for myself, like, I would co-sleep with my children or we did extended breastfeeding and for us it was wonderful, but I know like for other people they're like, ah, like that would have been like a problem for them, or like co-sleeping. Like a lot of people really enjoy co-sleeping. Then there are other families that's like not for them, or it doesn't work for them. And I think, being able to just remember that like something really is, it's only a problem if I say so. If it's not a problem for me, then I should be able to be okay with that and accept whatever, like way that we're choosing to parent or, do life together, if it's, I don't know, not creating a problem or whatever. So
Agreed.
yeah, that's wonderful. And so I know that you said you have a business. Can you share with us a little bit more about that business? So if there's anyone that's listening that would like to get connected with the work that you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, I'm a dietitian and a personal trainer. And really, what I do is I help committed individuals remove emotional eating issues, remove the excess weight, remove shame and guilt and disease inducing patterns so we can live life free, margarita in hand, exactly how we are imagining that picture to be. So everybody thinks, oh, you're just another like wellness person that's going to give me a diet. That has nothing to do what I do. I actually help you remove all the things that are stopping you from, one, being comfortable with you, two, actually getting to where you want to get to, and three, allowing you to be happy now. So when you get to that place you're imagining, like, oh, if I was just that number on the scale or that size of clothes, everything would be great. We get you to that place, but along the way, you're actually happy in the process. So it's kind of like a combination of it, really a wellness and whole being aspect of everything. And that's really what I kind of do in a nutshell. So
Wonderful. And if someone would like to connect with you and be a part of like that work that you're doing, or just connect, wanting to just connect with you in general, how can someone connect with you?
yeah, so I'm Leslie Urbas on any platform, really. Urbas is my last name. You'll find me on any one of them. Basically, I like Facebook. That's my place I like to be, but I am on Instagram and LinkedIn. And then I run a Facebook group. It's called Weight Loss and Wellbeing for High Performers. It probably will just go to Weight Loss and Wellbeing shortly. You can pretty much look it up and you'll see my picture in the little banner. But in that group, I try to give tips and go live every week on things. Like this week, we'll be discussing meal planning and how to decrease the worry about like how to meal plan and how to do it with kids and picky eaters and things like that. So I try to alleviate those things, and that group is where they can, find some of the free stuff at.
Awesome. And I will make sure that I include the links both to your Facebook and Instagram, as well as to that group, so that people can get plugged into the work that you're doing there, and hopefully be able to join you on this fitness journey to holistic health and well-being.
Sounds great.
Awesome. And so I just want to thank you so much for taking your time to talk with me today and share a little bit about your life as a military mom and a military family. Thank you so much for sharing so many awesome tips, tricks, resources, everything. And I hope for my listeners that this episode has been as much of a blessing for you as it has been for me. I know I've got a list of all these new podcasts and I'm like, I'm going to check that out. So thank you so much for sharing those wonderful resources with us. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we close for today?
Typically my last tip that I always kind of impart people to is remember that the only reason you may be feeling, like negative in your space is because you're allowing some sort of a part of you to feel the shame and guilt. So let yourself off the hook. None of us need to be held on the hook of like, oh, you're awful. So right now, take a deep breath, and whatever it is that you think that is making you awful right now, be like, no, it's not. Let it go, be free.
I love that. Let it go, be free. If we could just master those two things, this world would be a totally different place. Letting it go and being free. Thank you so much for sharing that. And to the rest of you, thank you for joining us today for this episode of the Peaceful Worldschooling podcast. I'll make sure that I share all of Leslie's links with you so you can get connected with her and the incredible work that she is doing in the world. And if you would like to support me and my work, please make sure that you share this episode with your family and friends. And you can also consider donating in the links that will be in the description or on my website, www.peacefulworldschoolers.com. Thank you so very much, and I hope that your day is as wonderful as you are. Bye. Join us next Tuesday on the Peaceful Worldschooling podcast. I'm your host, Angela Harders, and I hope that your day is as wonderful as you are. If you like this video, please make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you will not miss out on a single episode.